Hi everybody, very welcome to yet another live stream here on the Mentour Pilot channel. As always, I hope you're doing absolutely fantastic. And I've decided to rename my live streams into Aviation Talk because that's really what this is all about. I want to hang out with you guys, I want you to ask your questions, and then from time to time I'll find someone interesting to talk to. Like we've had some really great and cool guests on here. There are more guests that are scheduled to appear as well. But the honest truth is that things are starting to look up. Like there's more and more activity in the aviation world right now, and because of that, some of these really cool pilots that I want to talk to, they're now flying. So we'll see. It's becoming more and more hard to find people who are just sitting at home wanting to participate in live streams. But I do have quite a few more names that I really want you guys to have a chance to ask or talk to before this week is over. And having said that, I also want to share what my status is at the moment. So I'm still not flying. However, next week I will go into the simulator and I will be doing my 3 touch and go landings that I need to do in order to be able to legally fly passengers again. And then probably towards the end of the month, me and my boss, my base captain, is going to hopefully go and pick up an aircraft in Barcelona and do the very short flight over here to Girona. It'll take normally about 15 minutes to do, and that's just because we need to do a departure and an arrival procedure. The actual flight time between the airport is more like 5 minutes, I think. And once that is done, then from July onwards, it seems like we're going to go on to about a 40% production roster. So it's going to start picking up, and it looks really positive, guys. I don't know if you've followed my, the kind of news that comes up on my website. But the fact is that it seems like there are a lot of passengers who are willing to fly. There's a lot of people who are interested in doing the travel that they were planning to do. So, fingers crossed, this will be a V-shaped thing. I know that 2020 is pretty much already over from a financial point of view, but given, hopefully, if we can keep this social distancing going and we don't have another relapse of the virus, well then there might be a V-shaped recovery with normal passenger numbers coming back in 2021, and hopefully then an expansion in 2022, and then we're kind of off to the races again, guys. So that's what I'm hoping for. And in this live stream today, I'm going to try to take as many questions as possible, both from obviously the super chats, also the ones that are supporting the channel with a little bit of money, but also I'm going to try to take some normal questions from the normal chat here as well. So fire away, guys. What do you guys want to talk about? Oh, I saw someone talking about merchandising, and as you can see, I'm working on creating new cool designs all the time, and it's some really cool designs coming out. I have a brilliant graphic designer called Dominic. I'm hoping that he's here somewhere in the chat. And we're constantly coming up with new ideas. And in order for you guys to come and check it out, to go to the Teespring store and check out the different tees and hoodies and caps and stuff that we've already created, from now and for 24 hours, there's a 20% discount on everything in the store. All right, you just go to teespring.com and you search for Mentor Crew, then you'll get to my store and there's a 20% discount. And if you don't want to search for it, just I'm guessing most of you guys are following me on Instagram in a way, Mentor_Pilot. On my story there's a direct link to the store that you can go to, and you can get cool things like this, for example, in Trust with Trusts, don't we? Cool. So let's see. I want to start off and take some questions here. I see Will Engel. Will is one of my Patreons. Huge thank you to you, Will. Will has been a little bit under the weather, and he was supposed to go through surgery. And he says, "Hi, Mentor Pilot and the Mentor Pilot channel. Thanks to everyone for their prayers and thoughts. Surgery was put off due to the other medical issues. Sim time has been arranged for 6 crew who were unable to fly for the past 94 days. I urge safety first to all." Yes, first of all, sorry to hear that the medical procedure was held off. Will keep me updated on that. I'm really hoping to have both you and your uncle Joe onto the live stream at some point. Will's uncle Joe Engler was the commander on the second ever shuttle mission. So if you check that out on YouTube, it's really, really awesome. It's when they first tried and used the Canadian-made grapple arm on the space shuttle. So his uncle was the commander on that shuttle mission, which is beyond awesome. And Will has some really, really crazy story from his time in the Air Force. I think he actually was flying one of the T-38s that were following the shuttle in during the landing on that second mission. Which is just incredible. So I'd love to have Will and Joe onto the Mentour Paddle channel and talk about how it is to be a shuttle commander and things like that, and your time in the Air Force. So get better soon, Will. We're all keeping our fingers crossed to make sure everything goes okay. And the second part of the message, I completely agree with as well. As in, right now, this is something I'll probably make a video on soon enough about, how to start to escalate after a really big standstill like this. Like, how do we deal with it? What do we as pilots do? What do the airlines do? What do the maintenance engineers do? There are some really, really interesting aspects of this, because the aircraft have, well, they would have been rotated a little bit, but they've been standing sometimes quite long as well. And this has been during the spring. So during the spring, there's all kinds of critters, birds, so on, that want to nest, and they do so in strange places. So I've seen photos, not only from my airline, but from other places as well, of like bird nests in the landing gears, nests, like little critters that's gone into the pitot tubes and things. So there's going to be some serious work to get everything back. And then obviously, like Will was pointing out here, there is some simulator work that needs to be done. There's some training that needs to be done. And even if you are below your 90 days, if you've been sitting for 2.5 months, you are going to have to really get into the books now and really start to kind of kick up that, your knowledge, your skills, and also your motoric memory in order to be as safe as possible when it's time to sit and fly with passengers again. So it's really, really fascinating, this. I'm looking forward to everything that comes with it. So let's see. Simone Faguto, or Simeone Faguto. What is the FMA? Can you please do another family live stream, Captain, as I like the one you did before? I can always do another live stream with my wife and my kids. I'd love to, actually. The FMA is the flight mode annunciator. All right, that is basically what's telling the pilot what the autopilot is doing. So when we look at our primary flight display, the FMA is at the top of that, and it shows the auto throttle channel, the horizontal and the vertical channel. So it's saying, okay, what mode is the auto throttle in? Right, it is in, for example, MCP speed. It means that it's following whatever speed that we've set on our mode control panel. Okay, what is it doing laterally? Well, it's flying LNAV. What is it doing horizontally? It's flying VNAV, right? So then we have MCP speed, LNAV. Well, it's not going to be VNAV in that case, unless we have speed interval open. But that's what it's saying. So you can kind of quickly look down and see why. If you ask yourself, why is the aircraft doing what it's doing? You look at the FMA, then you realize what modes are engaged in the FMA. And if you're not happy with it, you go up and change it. So a lot of people in the beginning, when they start flying, they look at the mode control panel, because normally when you engage a mode, you click it and you get a little green light coming up. Okay, and in the beginning, people have a tendency to look at those lights and think that that's confirmation of the fact that the mode is engaged, but that's not true. What's up there is only the rumor. What's in the FMA is the fact. The only thing that green light says is that this is a mode that can be disengaged. It doesn't mean that it has actually captured. A good example of that, for example, is when you press approach mode. The green light will illuminate, but it doesn't mean that you're in approach mode. It means that you've armed approach so that it can go in and become the active mode. So it's, you have to get used to clicking it, looking at the FMA, and once you get on the FMA what it is that you want, then you call it out. Right? Make sense? Cool. James Idso, the Airbus A322. Alright, I'm not sure what you mean by that, but if it's a question in there somewhere, I think you're going to have to repeat it. And those are the super chat questions for now, guys. I don't know if there's more the way that this works, guys, is that if you have a question that you really, really want me to answer, then you can send it in a super chat. It means that I will be able to see it. It will be highlighted. I always answer all super chat questions, guys. So I will continue here for as long as I have super chat questions. And I saw there was a new one coming up, but I will take some from the normal chat as well. So, yay! YouTube actually sent me the notification at the beginning of the stream this time. They don't normally? Well, that's something I'm going to have to talk to them about. What do you think about the 747 SP? Okay, I'm going to be perfectly honest here and say that I don't have the differences between a normal 747 and 747 SP just in my kind of head right now. I probably should do, but any form of 747 is okay in my book. I love the 747. I think it's one of the most majestic aircraft that have ever graced the sky with its presence. So 747, if it's an SP or if it's normal 747, perfectly okay with me. Sean Rady, hi Mentor. I'm a PPL student and I'm due to get back flying in Ireland on the 13th of June. Do you have any advice for preparing to get back into an aircraft after such a long period of not flying? Yeah, so whatever theory that you have been doing up until now, you should be getting back into the book and you should read what's relevant to the type of training phase that you're in. And also, you should be, if you've been taking notes about your previous flight lessons, which I hope that you have, then you should be going back and you should be reviewing those notes. Not so much because you need to rethink or need to relearn what you've done, but more because that's going to bring you into the thinking, right? It's going to bring you back. You're going to remember how that session went. And you're going to think about what the flight instructor did, how you felt, what you could have done better. And that basically just brings you back mentally into training again. So read up on theory, try to dry fly if you can, but try to kind of mentally relive what you've done in the last few sessions. But also just expect that you're not going to be great. Like, you're going to be rusty when you haven't been flying for long, and your flight instructors would be well aware of that. Right? It's not going to come as a surprise to them that you're rusty. So it's probably going to add on a lesson or two onto the total length of your training, because the first is going to be, you're going to feel weird. It's going to be awkward and stuff. Don't worry about that. Do not punish yourself for that. It's completely normal. We sometimes see, if we've had let's say that we've had a cadet that's been doing a week of line training with us, so around 20 sectors, and then they get sick, for example, or something that gets them prolonged leave. When they come back, we basically see it as starting the training from zero. Like, okay, let's just do this from day one again. Let's go back and we add those sectors onto the total sectors, but we kind of not count them because we know that that's how human works. And the less experience you have, the less likely it is that you are going to that you're going to remember everything and that you're just going to be able to take off where you left. So don't worry. All right. The fact that you're worrying about it, the fact that you're asking me about it, and you're thinking about it, is probably a signal that you are going to do just fine. So go for it. Best of luck with your training. So normal questions as well. Okay, what is the one thing that you love most about being a pilot? I love that every day is different. I love when you sit down. Oh, this mig here. There's mosquitoes. I love when you sit down in the cockpit, all the briefings and paperwork is done, you taxi out, and you set takeoff thrust for that first flight of day. You feel the energy, you feel the acceleration for these two huge jet engines. You hurl down the runway, you know that the first officer is briefed, you know that you are briefed, you think about what to do in case you have to do a rejected takeoff, and you get completely focused into what you're about to do. So you leave everything else outside. Now it's only you and your crew in the aircraft, and you're on your way. All right. Then you get to relax. Once that first phase is done and you sit and you have the autopilot in and you're clear to your cruising level, you can start relaxing. You can get a cup of coffee and you can watch a beautiful sunrise and watch, like in our case, you fly over the Pyrenees. You see there's a little bit of snow left. Now what I'm getting to here is just it's a package deal. It's not you can't go in and say like, oh, I love being a pilot because A. No, you love being a pilot because the camaraderie with your crew the versatility of the work, the technology that you're using, the constant having to replan due to weather, or being ready to do something different than what you had planned. So it is a package deal, but it's a very, very good job. It is. Like now, yeah, I know I keep telling you this, guys, and it is really important that you understand this, and that is that it's also a cutthroat business. It is a business where you pay a lot of money for your training. It's hard to get your first job. When you get in, the industry can be very, very brutal. As in, it can be like now, for example, where people who thought that they had a really good job in a really secure firm 3 months ago find themselves out of a job all of a sudden. And this happens on regular intervals. And this is why, you remember, I did a video called How You Win. And if you haven't seen that video, you really should go and watch it. Because it is all about how you, even though you love this job, you still have to have constantly plan B. This is how we work as pilots on an everyday basis. We don't go towards a destination and think, oh, I hope it's going to be good there so I can land. No, we find out all of the information we can about our destination. And even if the weather is good there, we've still checked the weather, the NOTAMs, everything about the alternates, because we know that when we get there, something might have happened that we did not plan for. And it's exactly the same in life, right? You need to, especially in this industry, but it goes to show now in many, many different industries, you need to focus on what you want to do, but you need to have a plan B. You need to have resilience. You need to have the way to quickly kind of protect yourself, your assets, your life. Find something else to do in case you find yourself in a situation where you lose your job or you can't get a job. So that's one thing that I want to make absolutely clear, right? And these are the kind of things that, the Airline Pilot Club. I hope that you've gone in and checked the airlinepilotclub.com. I'm going to link to it in the description here as well if I remember it. So we are on track to start that. Okay, we are going to launch the Airline Pilot Club very, very soon for members. And we are going to do a lot of what we promised to do. We are going to give you the indicative assessment. We are going to help guide you toward the best schools. I am going to create material with your frequently asked questions. And I'm going to give you these kind of insights, all right? And Andy is going to give his insights from the industry to everyone that becomes a member of the Airline Pilot Club. And because both of us feel, that there's a lot of information that you guys need to know, all right? That you don't get told by a flight school, for example, because a flight school has a primary interest of getting you as customers, while we will have a primary interest of getting you into the cockpit, into the right seat of an airliner, right? That's what we want to try to achieve, and that's why we are doing it this way. This is why we've been kind of like an information hub now during this COVID crisis, so that you have somewhere where you can go and you could ask someone, put your questions in, and get someone like Andy O'Shea, which is a former post holder of a major airline, one of the biggest airlines in the world, answering you directly. Right? It's one of the few places you can do this. So if you haven't already kind of written yourself into the newsletter of Airline Pilot Club, theairlinepilotclub.com, you should do that, because we are going to start to the closer we get to launch, the more information we are going to feed out about what it is that we are going to try to do, what kind of benefit you as a member will have, and we're also now starting to tie in flight schools towards the group. But it takes a little while because we need to check them. We need to check them for making sure that they have the quality, that they have the syllabus, that they have the aircraft, that they have the trainers, that they have the economy to be good enough for us to point you guys towards them. But the Airline Pilot Club is coming, guys. So make sure that you have signed yourself up at least to the newsletter, so you know when we're starting up. All right? So, Stuart Young Murray, do you think we'll see a long-term move towards touchscreen-based cockpits like they had on the Crew Dragon? Yeah, no doubt. Absolutely. And you can see it already. If you look at the way we're going from the 737 Classic to the 737 NG to the 737 MAX to the 777 and 777X, you can see a clear tendency to go towards bigger screens, more touchless. And if you look at the kind of private jets that are out there, like if you look at the let's say the Gulfstream 650, G650, for example, and some of the even newer ones, the Falcon aircraft, for example, you'll see much more touchscreens. You see the newest Airbus, I think the Airbus 380 has quite a few touchscreens as well. So it's easier, it's less wear and tear. You can easily configure. If you have the functionality on one screen, for example, and something breaks, you can switch all that functionality over to a secondary screen. There's a lot of benefits from it. It also comes with a little bit of weaknesses, as in, complete loss of power or something, an EMP or whatever. But then again, they build huge amounts of redundancies into these things. So yeah, I do think that we're going to see much more touchless. I really hope that we get to keep some kind of yoke or at least a side stick on though. Les Chase, can you hear cabin crew PA to passengers? Yes and no. It depends a little bit. Some aircraft have higher volumes than others. Most of the time, though, that's completely filtered out. As in, we cannot hear it through our headphones. You will have to hear it from outside. And in order to do that, especially if you have a great pair of headphones like I do, the Bose ProFlight or the Bose A20, no, you're gonna have to sit and really, really listen for it, and you don't, because really there's only so many crew PAs that you want to hear on a daily basis. So yes, you could. No, we don't. If that makes sense. Good. Daniel Weise, or Weise. Daniel Weise, maybe. Have you ever landed a 737 at an uncontrolled airport? 74 gears that he landed 747 at one. I never would have thought the big boys used them too. I have never, and in fact, as far as I'm aware, under EASA rules, we have to go to an open airport. We cannot land on an uncontrolled one. You can land on certain uncontrolled ones, as in if there's what we call an office airport in Sweden, which is it has a tower, but it doesn't. It's not controlled airspace. It's G airspace. It gives information, but it gives information about the runway being cleared, for example. It doesn't give you clear to land. They say runway clear, and then it's up to you to land. So there are some places where you can go. It's still considered to be an open traffic airport, though, even though it's not a controlled airport. But going in and like transmitting blind and just landing, no. As far as I know, I'm not going to swear on this because there might be specific airline operations, specifically smaller airlines operations, where you can do this with passengers, but I've never heard about it in Europe with a 737 or anyone of that size. So, Tranefine in the normal chat, do you think prior military service, not as a fighter pilot but in ground forces, is a real benefit for being an airline pilot, and could I stand out with it in an interview? Well, if you're in the US, I believe that they actually see that as something beneficial, something very good, that you've served in the forces. It shows a certain amount of character. In other places, it might not do as much, but in general, having served your country and having done that type of work where you have shown that you can work in a strict line of command, for example, and you know what that takes, and you know that they know that you have the discipline to work in that kind of environment, is never a bad thing, right? It will, if anything, it will always play positively, providing that you, of course, is as a nice guy that can operate in a friendly kind of manner as well, in a civilian way. But yeah, it's a good thing. So go for it. Wide World Wes, great to see you here, Wes. My first FAA exam is Friday. I'm looking forward to getting back in the air and leaving all this chaos behind for a brief moment. Well, best of luck, Wes. Just let me know if there's anything I can do to help, even though I don't think so. I think that you have this sorted. So, yeah, I think we're all yearning for normality at this point. Like, it's just so much time that you can sit at home. And I've definitely felt during the last 2 weeks that I really want to get back flying now. I want to get back working. I want to get back to see my colleagues. I want to do what I'm trained for. And like I've been on the ground since February now, and I've never in my 19 years soon of working in the airline business never been away from it this long. So I am definitely looking to get back to some kind of normality as well. And I really hope that we can get this, crack this virus, get a vaccine, get back to somewhere close to where we were before. Not necessarily exactly where we were before. I do think that there are some good things that might come out of this. I hope that that a lot of people will be able to continue to work from home if they want to, for example. That is going to decrease congestion in the cities. It's going to have all sorts of benefits for family life and things like that. So I hope that will continue. I hope that some of the environmental good side of this is going to work. And guys, by the way, did you guys see that that caravan, the super caravan that went flying the other day on driven on an electric motor? It has 100 nautical miles range on electricity, which is not great. All right, it's not a huge amount of it, but it is definitely a step in the right direction. I think that thing can take either 9 or 11 passengers. So, like if you can take 9 passengers, fully electric, and flying it between small city pairs in places like in Sweden, for example, or in island countries where you might only do hops between islands and stuff, that's great. It's a step in the right direction. And in fact, when I went to Friedrichshafen, to the air of Friedrichshafen last year, and I was looking at, they had a huge, there was a lot of work around electrical motors then. They said that the energy density on the batteries are currently getting twice as good every year, right? They're doubling the energy density every year just by innovation, new ways of doing things. And if that's the case, in next year we might have 200 nautical miles, then we might have 400 nautical miles, then we might have 800 nautical miles, and now we're talking some serious distances going only electric. And if we can snap a couple of those engines on some of the smaller commuter aircraft and maybe fly, at least aided, using electrical motors to aid during taxi, during takeoff, for example, to use less fuel in the most demanding phases of flight, then we can actually reduce the environmental impact quite a lot. And this is something I'm really, really curious about, and I'm really hoping for. So, Richard Burris, has your airline issued new policies on crew treatment for things like mask compliance, social distancing, and de-escalation of passenger problems? Well, de-escalation of passenger problems are going to be the same. There's always been a way to kind of deal with passengers depending on how they feel. There's a lot of new rules when it comes to personal protective equipment, to interaction with passengers, to crew, to meals, to everything. So yes, there's a lot of new rules coming into force. But most of it is really about common sense. Like, you guys as passengers, you're gonna have to have masks on. You're gonna have to think about, I don't think that people will have to wear gloves, but there's gonna be, I don't know how they're gonna do with likes of alcohol, for example, for cleaning hands and things. Hopefully, they're gonna either issue or make available those kind of things to make sure that people can keep their hands clean. There are going to be different rules about how people kind of congregate in the cabin as well, to avoid queues and to get people too close to each other. But it is all down to masks, really, and personal hygiene and screening. A lot of screening before you go to the airport, when you're at the airport, before you board, these kind of things. Derek Rulston, any chance Pilot Emil or Nancy Bradshaw on live? This is the second time I've heard about Nancy Bradshaw. I am actually following her. I've seen some of her YouTube videos, which are great. I'm going to call her. Or not call her. I'm going to send a message to her and see if she's interested. Because that would be interesting. I'd love to have her on, actually. But at the moment, no. At the moment, they're not in my kind of roster of people that are about to be. But Nancy is definitely one of them I would like to have on the show, because I think that would be great. Daniel Weiss, I don't know how to pronounce that, so I'm going to say Daniel Weisse. That's Swedish. Do they pair a new first officer with a more experienced captains and new captains with more experienced first officers to balance out the crew? Yeah, when you're new, and you're only new for the first about 100 hours on type, then you're not allowed to fly. You're not to fly one new captain with a new first officer, for example. But once you have passed that, then there's no rostering restrictions anymore. So during training, you have to fly with a line training captain. And then the first 100 hours after you've been training, you need to fly with more experienced people, not necessarily a line training captain, but someone who has more than 100 hours as a captain, and then they kind of crew them together. And this is different in different airlines, obviously. So there are no CAA rules. Like the authorities, they only have the minimum rules, and then the airlines stipulate higher rules in order to, well, depending on what their operations manual states, basically. So you'll have differences between different airlines when it comes to that. But that's a great question. Thank you. So, Tim Carlson, Airbus 319 at gate with APU running front turbines is seen spinning slow. Is this the APU bleed air flowing down to the engines? No. What you're seeing when you have small movement of the blades, well, the front turbines, you mean the actual fan, is wind. The fan is not connected to drives. As in, the fan is connected to the turbine section, and you can move them by yourself. So they're not kind of connected to gears. So so when it's windy, it's just, even if it's just a little bit of wind, they're so aerodynamically effective that they will actually go with the wind. There will be some self rotation on it. So that's what it is. Okay, so let's see some normal questions then. Will you always fly the 737s, and would you consider flying other equipment if it means you get more work, like long haul flights? Yeah, well, I mean, it all depends. My goal right now is to kind of work on the channel and flying simultaneously. I just had a fantastic Zoom call with my Patreon crew, which I do from time to time. Like my Patreon crew, both I can contact them directly from via Patreon, but I can also send out messages in my Discord server and to a certain extent in my app. And from time to time, I meet up with them for Zoom calls where we can meet kind of face to face, which is really cool. And we had a discussion about this, as in how much am I going to work? And I've said that the more patrons I have, the more support I have for the channel, the more I'll be able to create content for you guys. And obviously now I'm stuck at home and I can only do from home. But my idea was to go out traveling a little bit, maybe go out to flight schools, maybe go out to simulator centers and do more videos for you guys. And in order to do so, I actually have the best job in the world. I am going to try to apply for part-time. That was part of the deal. If I got over a certain amount of patrons, that I will try to do that. I'm going to do that. So with that in mind, I'm perfectly happy flying the 737. I love flying the 737. I know how to fly the 737, and I'm very happy in my role. Now, if something would happen, so if I would be fired due to this COVID mess, for example, or whatever, then I would have to start looking. And then obviously it's perfectly possible that I might end up flying cargo 747 or 777 or whatever that might mean. But I'm a little bit careful because most airlines, I have to say, most airlines are very restrictive of what kind of social media profile you can have. So if I were to go to a certain airline, for example, they might just say that, listen, you have to give up that mentor stuff that you're doing. Like, we cannot, you're not allowed to be associated with us when you have such a large social following, right? And that makes sense if you think about it. My current airline have been very, very good to me when it comes to this, and I have they've always been. I've been asking them when there's anything controversial. I've been sending them like, what do you think about this? And then they will come back and say, no, actually, keep away from that, or yes, this is okay. And they've been great with that. But that's not the case in most airlines, because there's always a risk of having someone who has a social media reference that you cannot control. So I have perfect understanding of airlines that don't allow that, right? But as you can understand, so for me, it's a delicate balance, and I really like the job that I have. Like, that's a reason I've been here for so long. I like flying with my current colleagues. I like flying the 737, and I definitely like my base here, which is just 25 minutes away from where I live, which is great. Okay, cool. How many flight hours do you have? I have about 10,800, I think. And it's that low because I've been flying for almost 19 years, but it's that low because I've done a lot of time in the simulator as well. So I probably have a good 3,000 hours in the simulator on top of that as instructor. So, you know, if you count that, around 14,000, which is a lot, you know. Cool. Jakob Stenda in the normal chat. I have just enough money for pilot course, and then I will be out on my research. Should I go for it? Well, I mean, like I said, you have to be careful to make sure that you can actually wither in case you do your pilot training and you don't get a job for a while. Like, I think anyone who goes in, well, right, if you start now, it's a little bit different, because in 2 years when you're done, or 2.5 years or something, this might look very different. But if you're coming out of flight training right now, then you should be counting on at least 6 months to a year before you even get a call for an interview. And obviously you need to be able to wither that in one way or another. You need to have a plan for how you're going to do that financially. So that's what I tell people. You know, don't put yourself in a situation where you go personally bankrupt. All right, have some kind of plan for how you're going to deal with it, and if you can, go for it. It's like what we're saying in the Airline Pilot Club at this moment, is that when there are no jobs, you should be training so that you're ready when there are jobs. All right, and it's a good way of thinking about things. So, Robert Young, here's a cup of coffee for you. Thank you. And that's not me applauding, that's me killing a tiger mosquito. I have to keep the window open because it's so stuffy in here. But unfortunately, that also means that there's loads of mosquitoes in here. Thanks for the coffee. I'm going to use that when I go to the airport next time. And hopefully that's going to be when I go and pick up the 737 to fly to the base. So I'll think of you, Robert, when I do that. J.A. Bristol, how's it going during the China virus? You're becoming restless in the state of perpetual grounding. Yeah, as I was talking about before, absolutely. Like, now I am well ready to start flying again. I can't say that I have not enjoyed being home with my family. I have, and I've had, you know, the kind of sleep pattern that I have now, when I go to sleep at around 12 o'clock at night and I go up at about 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning or something, and I get to sleep exactly how much that I need for exactly when I want to. It's really good for the body. I feel better. I haven't had a tendency of a cold. Obviously, that's probably why, because we're not kind of, you know, close to other people, so I don't know where that cold should come from. But you do feel well. But mentally, I have to say that, at least during the last few weeks, and I've talked about this before, I am planning to kind of, especially, I think in July, I probably won't come out with any videos. Like, that's maybe one. But otherwise, I'm going to completely retract and try to charge my batteries a bit. Because during this whole pandemic, the only thing that kept me sane is to come down and, you know, I get up in the morning, I have my cereal with nuts and raisins, I have a good cup of coffee, I read the news, and then I go in and I sit in front of the computer and I think about new videos to do. I've talked about people that's going to come onto the show and do a live stream together with me, racking up, trying to find sponsor for the videos, and then planning for filming, editing, and sending out 2 videos, like twice the amount that I normally do. And that I've been doing because I feel both I need to do that, I need to have something to do, but also because I know that there's a lot of people out there who want content, who just are sitting at home as well, who are bored, who want something to keep their spirits up. And I've been trying to, because I have this fantastic platform, I've been trying to do that, but it also feels that it's kind of draining a little bit. So this is why I'm so grateful to my Patreon crew, because they enable me to do that. It means that I can take a month to recharge the batteries because of the support that I'm getting from them. And even though I might not have an income, we'll see. Hopefully, I'll get back to some income. Now we've had some support from the company, we've had some support from Spain, but it is significantly less than what we would have normally. So this channel, and what I'm getting from this channel and what I'm getting from Patreons, has been sustaining me and the family throughout this, which is amazing. I am so happy, I'm so grateful to all of you guys who've been watching my videos, anyone who's doing super chat questions, anyone who is who's supporting us Patreon. You guys are great. I'm really happy with that. So Let's see here. Did we talking good for you, Jamie Kelly? Try a GoFundMe. There's loads of us who would like to help you from Yellow Gun. Okay, so now I'm getting curious. Kelly, what have... I'm just trying to find out what people are doing here. Jamie Kelly, I really want to become a pilot. I'm 15. My parents don't believe in me, and I think it's too much money. Any ideas? All right, Jamie. So first of all, I've done a video about this. It's quite old, but it is definitely something that you should be watching. And if you like it, sit down with your parents and watch it. And it's what you should tell your parents. Just search that. What you should tell your parents, mentor. That's a video I did specifically for that purpose, and it's to explain to parents why I, for example, went from a mediocre student to a straight A student just because I had the goal of becoming a pilot. How it kept me out of trouble, how it kept me away from alcohol, from drugs, from anything of that, and how that helped to go. Even if you end up at the end not become a pilot, it means that you've learned how to, work towards a goal, how to become really, really good, and how to become really, really focused on trying to achieve something from an early age. And that is something that's extremely powerful and something that's helped me throughout my life. I wouldn't have been able to create this fantastic YouTube channel with all of you guys following if I didn't persistently put out videos and believed in the message for basically 2-3 years, before it started really taking off with the channel. And that came from the experience that I had as a child wanting to become a pilot. So I am talking a lot about that, and how parents should be really, really grateful to have kids that want to become pilots, because it's a gift. Then when it comes to the financial bit, here's where you have to hustle. Here's where you have to come up with things out of the box. I recommend you. I did a series called Mentor Cadets, and I have a guy there, Dyfrig, which was a mentor cadet, and he was a lumberjack, really, really interested in becoming a pilot, and he had a family, he had kids already, and he just decided that I'm going to become a pilot, and I'm going to do so by hustling, by working, by saving up, and by getting, and he worked, and he went in and he did it a modular way, and he worked at Bristol Ground School for a while, and he hustled his way through, and he's now an Airbus 320 pilot. All right, he started when he was in his 30s. You can see it in the Mentor Cadet series. You can follow his journey through and this in the beginning, and he's now reached his goal, right? So anything is possible. He didn't have any money. He didn't have any. I don't think he got any loans. Maybe a small one towards the end, but he hustled his way through that. Hustled, not hassled. So anything can be done when you have the spirit and go for it. Right. So more questions here. Charlie Stern, do most FOs you fly with come from cadet schemes? No, there's an There's an even mix of people who've done it the modular way. People who've gone through cadet, but not cadet schemes. They've gone through integrated schemes. So some of these integrated schemes are kind of angled towards my particular airline, so they would have gone in on a cadet scheme of sorts, but none of them are sponsored, or anything like that, or none of them are promise a job at the end of the training. They would have just had an integrated course that has certain things that are aimed towards my particular airline. But 50-50. I would have people that comes from, like I said, an integrated training. I would have people that comes from modular training. I would have people that are old, that are young. It's a great mix of everything, really. Arash Teimorian. Arash Teimorian. Hope you and your family are doing well. Thank you. We are. What's your thoughts on the Chinese carrier ban? Also, what's your thoughts on the new 777? Take care. Okay. So I am keeping well clear of starting discussions on, political discussions on this channel. All right. I do a little bit on Twitter. All right. People that's following me on Twitter will see a little bit more of my political leanings. But I want to keep this channel clear of it. For that reason, I'm not going to go into what I think about travel bans about carrier bands, things like that, right? What I can say, and something that I believe thoroughly in, is leadership. Okay, and what do I mean by that? I mean that a good leader has a certain amount of qualities, right? I want anyone who's following my channel to really think about what kind of a leader, A, that they would like to follow, and B, they would like to be. Because this is essential for becoming a good pilot. At some point, you are going to be a leader. If you're a first officer, you're going to be a leader. If you're a captain, you're going to be a leader. And you're also going to have to learn to be followers. So you need to know what a good leader is. And when we talk about good leaders, you can start to kind of think about yourself, take a paper and write down what you think a good leader is. So me personally, when I think about a good leader, the first thing I think about is taking responsibility. It means that if something goes wrong, the buck stops with me. I am the one who's going to take responsibility for whatever happened. I'm not going to blame my co-pilot or my cabin crew or my passengers, the ground crew for something that the crew should have done together. If the crew have done something, there's been a mistake made. I am the one that's going to take responsibility for that. So taking responsibility. You also need to be knowledgeable. Like, you need to know what you're talking about. And when it comes to that, it just means that, you know, your crew and your passengers are going to expect that from me. You know, if I'm going to fly the aircraft, they expect me to know my stuff. If I'm going to take decisions affecting the safety of the flight, they're expecting me to know what I'm doing. So you need to be knowledgeable. You also need to be a good team player. You need to be able to listen to people and not think about who is right, as in, am I right or is the first officer right? You think about what is right. So what solves the situation? Maybe I come in with my mind made up into something. I think we should solve it this way. And then the first officer speaks up and says, better, what about if we do it like this? A hugely important thing for a leader is to sit back, be able to sit back and think, actually, that is a great idea. Good job, John. Let's do it that way, because it's actually better than I thought. Then the sum of two becomes bigger. The sum of 1 plus 1 becomes bigger than 2. It becomes more, right? So you need to be knowledgeable. You need to be a good communicator. You need to be a good listener. You need to take responsibility, okay? So without getting into any politics, I want anyone who's following this channel to be thinking about leaders that they elect, and leaders that they follow, and leaders that they want to become. Do they have these qualities? Can you tick them? Sit down. If you choose between two, tick. What are they? What do they stand for? How do they deal with these things? Less than what the kind of party politics that we're seeing going on, not only in the United States, but in the UK, in Spain, in Sweden, in Germany, everywhere, in France, in Australia, New Zealand, in India, everywhere. You see a lot of different politics coming from different parties. But what you should ask yourself is, what do you stand for yourself? And how are the leaders representing what you stand for? And you sit and you tick, and the one that has the most ticks, that's the one that you vote for. And that's what we need to think about. So instead of trying to politicize, or instead of coming in and talking about whether a travel ban is good or bad, ask yourself why that travel ban is there. Ask yourself, you know, what the leaders are standing for, what are they trying to do, what are they accomplishing from it, and then let that guide. I think that this whole thing that we gather ourselves into groups and we only stick within our own group and we only listen to our own little bubble of news and of opinions is really dangerous. All right, it really is. We need to get out of that. It's very, very important, because if a cockpit was worked like that, if we flew and a pilot worked his cockpit or her cockpit like that, we would never be able to avoid any accidents or incidents, right? We would dig ourselves into our position. We would never be able to come up with a solution, and the aircraft would still go where the aircraft is going. So whatever problem we had will not be solved, and that's it, right? Think of it that way. That was a long answer to that question. But as you can see, like, it's not like I'm not political. And it's not like I love having political discussions with my friends and stuff, but that's not what this channel is for. So I'm keeping it away from the channel. I know that I have all types of political fractions following me, and I want to be able to do that. That's another thing. I love talking to people who have a different opinion than me. I would never dream about calling them names or not liking them because they are of a different opinion. Instead, I think that talking to someone of a different opinion is actually some of the most rewarding conversations that you can have. Because the best conversations are the ones where you get out and you've changed your mind. Maybe they have a really good point. Maybe there's something that you can learn from them. Great, let's sit down. Let's, shake hands and see where we come up. And if we end up not having the same, thinking the same afterwards, doesn't matter. I can still like that person. That's how it should be. That's how it always have been. But the problem with social media, I think, is these bubbles that people get into, because you get a false sense of that everyone thinks like you and that everyone else that doesn't do are wrong, and that really can cause some problems. Okay, cool. Gary, hello, thanks for the aviation education. How hot is it over there in Girona? At the moment it's not too bad. It's about 25 degrees during the day, 20, now it's probably 17, 18 degrees. It's going to go up more than that in a few weeks. But it was really nice. It was up to 30 degrees and then it dropped down a bit. And now we have a lot of rain showers and thunderstorms in the afternoons, which it's like when it's a cold weather area over here. J.A. Bristol figured. Also, I just rewatched your old video talking about the flat bottoms of the 77 engines, but I forgot you swore in that one. Laughed out loud. It happens. All right. I am not particularly politically correct. I speak the way that I speak to people, and sometimes bad words might come out. I try to avoid it. I really do. I have some friends of mine and some admins that really don't like when I use that language. I really try to avoid it, but it's also a little bit what I am or who I am. Dan Workman, no question. Just wish that you and the family keep safe and that you can get back flying soon. Thanks for all the great content. Well, thank you. I'm here for you guys. This is why I'm doing it, and I love that you guys are here as well. Jerwan LSMTF. Right, so you have put a super chat question in and it didn't come through. The question didn't come through, and this happened. I think that it's a little bit confusing, the whole super chat. The way the super chat works. You have to write it in first, and then you send it over. But anyway, whenever this happens, I want you to go in, get the Mentour Aviation app. There will be links here in the video description. Otherwise, you just go to mentorpilot.com/apps and you'll find the download link there. I hope that everyone has it already, of course. And then go to settings. There is a submit feedback button. You click that. That will open up an email to me and to my admins. So just write super chat question and then write a question there and I will answer it to you. Right? No problems. Jeffrey McGee, hi Mentor. When an airline gets new aircraft type, how do they determine a captain since it's based on seniority? And everyone is new to the aircraft. Yeah, that's normally how it's done. So they will already have senior captains on a different type that's transitioning over. Those ones will go through the type rating, learn in the beginning. Normally, sometimes they get, like today buy a Boeing, for example, there will be a Boeing training pilot that will come and teach the first couple of training captains. And then once those training captains have a bit of experience, they will then help train all of the others. And that tends to be the way that it works. Or yeah, I'd say in most cases it's probably something like that. So the captains will continue to be captains. Upgrades will come as they go. All right. So even though everyone is new, you will still have seniority from previous experience within the airline that's going to be used to determine whether or not you're going to be the captain on this new type. Good question though. Marcus Lagendorf, do all pilots have the leadership have to have leadership qualities, or do they only have to know what makes a good leader? You need to have leadership qualities. Now, every pilot and every captain is different. So what makes me a good captain, which I hope I am, some days I'm not, but I try to anyway, is not going to be the same that makes you a good captain, for example. Like that's why I keep telling people when I do command upgrade training is that everyone has this notion about how great captain that they used to fly with was, right? Everyone has flown with great captains, and the first thing I tell them is that you won't be able to emulate that, right? Because you have your own personality, your own personal choices, and your own way of doing things. So the only thing that we can definitely do is you can think back at all of those captains that you flew with that were not great, that didn't have the right leadership qualities, or at least not the ones that you like. And you can try to sort out what was it that you didn't like, or was it that they did that you really disliked as a first officer, and then you can avoid doing that. All right. If you do that, that's a good start of becoming a good captain. And also, I think it's absolutely crucial that no matter how long you sit in the left seat, you keep remembering how it felt to be a first officer. You keep remembering how it felt to fly with a captain where you had the kind of, how am I going to tell him or her this? I don't. They're going to be angry now. How am I going to get? What fights is it worth taking? What fight is not worth taking? That person is not following any SOPs. But this is dangerous and that is not dangerous. So I'm going to wait until this point and then I'm going to speak up. All of that you have to remember, right? Because if you remember that, you also know how to not. You know how to not give that kind of feeling to your first officer. You can see it clearly. Like if you are a people person, there are people who don't see these signs, but most people, they do notice when, for example, you fly, you're coming in, you're a little bit hot and high, which happens, you get a shortcut that you know, and you start to see how your colleagues starting to like wiggle a little bit in your seat. That's going to be the first indication that he or she is not really happy with the situation. Now, even if I am happy with the situation, because I know, for example, that I can slow it down and get the gear down early or whatever, I'm used to this, or I can ask for holding or something. Even if that's the case, if I see my first officer starting to act like that, I ask, you okay? You happy with the situation? And when you ask like that, they're going to say, well, shouldn't we be doing this now? Sometimes they put up something that is great, something that you missed completely. And it's like, oh, yeah, absolutely, good point. Or you can tell them, yes, I agree, this looks high. But in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to see whether or not, because we're very light and we have a lot of headwind, so it's likely that we're going to get down on the profile fairly early anyway. But if that's not the case, then before we reach this point, we'll ask for a right vector to get some extra track miles. Or we ask them if we can go just once around the hold to reduce the altitude. And then you'll see them kind of, you see the shoulders going like that. And you've solved the situation, and you've solved the CRM bit, and possibly you've picked something up that you could have made a mistake on otherwise. So, these kind of things this is what it's like to work together in that kind of tight relationship with, you can have a very, very high gradient, and if you have a very high power gradient, it's unlikely that the first officer will speak up. But what you try to do is have a power gradient. It needs to be one, because they need to know who takes the decisions if it comes down to something. But it should be a fairly, very little gradient on it, because then they feel that they can speak up, and they will speak up, and they want to speak up, and then you get the most out of it. So to answer your question, this was once again a very long answer. No, not every pilot or not every captain necessarily have all of these leadership qualities, but they should aim to learn it. If you're a young captain, you will learn it, and you want to learn it, you will definitely learn it. But yes, they would have been checked out on having the minimum needed, at least, leadership qualities in order to be a safe captain. And this is also something that's being checked on every 6 months in your LPC and your OPC, every year in your line check. And if someone is starting to show bad leadership qualities, you know that the first officer have the chance to both report them, and this is something you shouldn't do without telling the person that you're doing it. But you can also just go and have a confidential kind of meeting with your boss, your base captain or whatever, and say, listen, I've been flying with this guy, I don't really like it, this is happening. And then that, if you get enough of those things, then you might look more closely into the next line check and stuff to make sure that these people who doesn't have good leadership qualities does not continue to fly or change themselves. I mean, that's what we're after. We're not out to fire people. We're out to improve people, and that's what's going to happen. And if you see on a line check that you have these tendencies, you take them aside. I sit and I write down a specific scenario might have happened, which points to the point I want to make, and I have that debriefing. And hopefully that's something that, a wake-up call. I get them as well. Sometimes, you get attitudes and stuff that you don't really notice. And when you have a line check And the line training captain is telling me, like, listen, you know that thing that you're doing? You're starting taxiing quite fast around the corners. Have you noticed that? And you think, yeah, actually, I might be. And then you try to improve that. This is how the system works. And this is how the system must work. Robert Bendis, my son passed his road test today for his driver's license. Can you give a shout out to RJ? RJ, great, good stuff. The freedom that you get when you get your driver's license. That first time when your dad, in this case Robert, gives you the keys to the car and you can go out and you can meet your friends. Hopefully, I mean, even in these times with Corona and everything. But that feeling of just getting the car and being allowed to just go wherever you want without a teacher sitting next to you or without your parents, that feeling is so great. It is so great. That feeling of freedom is fantastic. So congratulations, RJ. Very well done. Joshua, Enduring. I had to stop halfway through my PPL due to COVID. I feel like I'm getting rusty. Any advice to keep up to date? Have you considered flying GA a bit while you aren't working on your airlines? Thanks. Yeah, like I was saying in the beginning of the video here, if you've stopped in the middle, you're going to need to start to backtrack and start to kind of go through the notes of your previous sessions. Try to remember how it was, try to remember how it felt, dry fly mentally a little bit home, read up much more than you would like to on your theoretical side, and then just, like I said in the beginning, realize that you are going to be rusty, right? You will have to take at least one session just to get back into flying again, and then hopefully, if you have prepared well, you're off to the races after that. But you will be rusty in the first session, and your instructor will know about it. When it comes to flying GA, I've lost my single pilot rating. Right? I haven't flown GA since 2005, so if I want to fly that again, I need to go to a flight school, I need to do a couple of lessons, and then I need to do a skill test in order to get my single pilot rating back. This is something I have considered, but I, haven't done it yet. Les Chase, bluff your way into the flight deck book written pre-9/11 and only available on eBay, etc. now. Great humor to read. Perhaps you could do an updated copy. Smallish paperback and around $4 to $5. Alright, cool. So, bluff your way onto the flight deck. Alright, so that will be the book suggestion of the day. Very good. Right, I'll take, there's no more super chat questions here now, and we're coming up to more than an hour, so let's see, and take some more normal questions and then we'll go. Petter, with what precision can you estimate how much fuel to carry on a flight? The same type of aircraft with the same type of engines and load, do they consume the same amount of fuel? Yes, kind of. Alright, from Sven Arboria. On the 737, you can kind of count on an average of between 40 and 50 kilos of fuel per minute, all right, in total consumption. So they take about twice as much during climb, about half as much during descent, and about there, so around 40. So if you count on 50 kilos per minute, you're going to be on the safe side. So that gives you an approximation. See how many minutes of flight that you're doing, add on another 30 minutes, and then add on the kind of fuel for diversion on top of that. So if you want to make it really easy on yourself, see what the flight time is, take that times 50 and add on about 2.5 tons. Then you have your alternate fuel and you have approximately the fuel you need to do the flight. It's a very rough estimation, but on the 737 it works out quite well. If you're much lighter, you're going to burn less than that. If you're much heavier, you're still going to be around there, because this is a conservative figure. All right. Okay, Holy Character, I have been shielding as I have uncontrolled asthma, and your videos have been keeping me going through the 12-week shielding period, so thank you so much. Oh, excellent. So that's all I needed to hear. That's great to hear, Ollie. I hope that you're feeling well. I hope that we're getting out of this soon so that you can get out soon again. I really do. How are you prepping to return to the air? Well, I have all my manuals that I need to go through. I need to prepare if I'm going to actually do these sessions as well. And to be honest, working with the channel and doing what I do, which is researching a lot of different aviation stuff on a daily basis and thinking about these things, it actually keeps me going quite well. But now I feel I probably need to sit down and dry fly a little bit myself. That's why it's good, since I'm going to the sim next week, and I'm going to do a takeoff for the flaps 5. I'm going to do a hand flown ILS approach. I'm going to do a landing. I'm going to take off, and I'm going to non-precision approach, and I'm going to do a landing, a takeoff. Then I'm going to non-precision approach with a circling. Probably try to do a go around at some point. Maybe an engine failure after takeoff, just to get the handling right. Once you've done that, that takes about an hour to do. Then then I think I should be fairly back into speed. But there's a lot of new things as well. That's the problem now with this COVID thing. There's going to be a lot of new procedures, and every time that you do something new, especially if you're rusty, it's going to take longer time, because you need to incorporate that new thing, and you need to remember what you did before. And sometimes you need to unlearn things that you've done in order to do these new things, and that can be a problem. The less kind of current you are, the harder it is to make changes to all procedures. Everything is sitting here in the back of your neck, and to get rid of that, you really have to just jank it out. Cool, guys, that's it for today. I think I'm going to stop it here. I am really, really happy to have you here. I hope that you've enjoyed this, and I hope that you follow the channel, that you put the little notification bell on, and yeah, come over to the Mentour Aviation app after this if you want to hang out with other aviation interested people, if you want to hang out with pilots, with people in training. It's a great, great place to be. It's completely free to download. You have the link down here, and if you don't want to check out the link, it's just mentorpilot.com/apps, and you can find the download link there. And I'll see you inside of the app, or hopefully in Patreon, because like I said, I have my Patreons to thank for a lot of things right now, and I'm truly, truly grateful for the support that they are giving to the channel. And remember, 24 hours, 20% off all of the merch on the Mentor Crew Teespring store. You find that on the mentorpilot.com. You find it on Instagram as well. So if you want a t-shirt like this, or the positive attitude one, or some new ones that maybe you haven't even seen yet, then go and check it out. Have an absolutely fantastic day wherever you are, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.